Football discourse is becoming exhausting. From the endless stat head comparison graphics to aura discussions to whatever this shit is. The conversation around football is becoming more combative and divisive than it has ever been before. And with the recent rise in the fandom of individual players above the team itself, shown through music counts and fan pages, fans will combat any slander or criticism that anyone has to share about their favorite player. These fans will band together with others that share the same passion and begin to create their own cults, no longer supporting any team but solely cheering for their favorite player. And this specialized fandom is especially prevalent for one position: quarterback. Now this makes sense. I mean, quarterbacks are the highest paid, most singularly important position on the football field. They're seen as the leader of their team and are often the most popular player for each NFL franchise. But the NFL quarterbacks that develop these followings, these cult-like followings, aren't always the best quarterbacks in the league. They range in mainstream popularity, skill level, and achievements, from someone like Tim Tebow, who did portray himself like a certain religious figure, so that didn't really help, to a Nick Foles, who led the Eagles to playoff success and a Super Bowl win, to a player like Joe Burrow, whose following transcended college to the pros. The formation and development of a cult isn't always logical, and the passion and dedication that the followers of a cult show often seems crazy for those that haven't been indoctrinated. But even with that being said, I don't know if there's been a more strange, divisive, and embarrassingly public cult in the history of the NFL than the cult of Justin Fields. But to understand the cult, we must first understand its leader. Hailing from Kennesaw, Georgia, Fields was a 5-star recruit coming out of Harrison High School when in his 2 years of starting, put up over 4,000 passing yards, 2,000 rushing yards, and nearly 70 combined touchdowns. Fields was a number 1 rated dual-threat quarterback in the 2018 class, with ESPN even listing him as a number 1 overall recruit over Trevor Lawrence. After committing and spending his freshman year at the University of Georgia, Fields transferred to Ohio State to finish out his collegiate career. In his first season at Ohio State, Fields led the team to a 9-0 conference record and a win in the Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin, and finished the season with 3,273 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns to only 3 interceptions, and 10 touchdowns on the ground. But the next year is where the cult of Justin Fields began to gain its earliest followers. Entering that season, fans were worried if games would even be played due to COVID. But the Big Ten did eventually agree to play a shortened, conference-only season, and Fields had a part in that decision, as he was a vocal supporter for reinstating the 2020 football season, even creating a petition that garnered over 300,000 signatures. With the 2020 season underway, Ohio State again went undefeated in conference play, with Fields starting off the season extremely strong, but waiting a bit through the second half of conference play. This regular season success led to another bid in the college football playoffs, with a first-round rematch against the Clemson Tigers, who they fell to in last year's playoffs. Played in the Superdome in New Orleans with only 3,000 fans in attendance, Fields showed out, quickly showing off his arm strength with a 47-yard pass to Garrett Wilson, eventually leading to his first passing TD of the night. The score was tied up 14-14 at the end of the first quarter. To start the second quarter, Fields quickly marched the team downfield with some quick passes and big runs to put the Buckeyes up by 1 score. After the Buckeyes defense forced Clemson to a 3-and-out, Ohio State got the ball back, and with 6 minutes left in the second quarter, Fields received the snap, scanned the field, decided to run up the middle, and then took a hard hit by Clemson linebacker James Skalski to the ribs that left Fields down on the field for a few minutes. After returning back into the game, Fields rolled right and threw a 9-yard pass to Chris Olave for his 3rd touchdown of the night. The replay showed Fields jogging awkwardly to the sideline holding his ribs. Following another quick possession from Clemson, Fields led the Buckeyes down 80 yards in 3 minutes, capping off the drive with his 4th touchdown of the night with 11 seconds to go in the first half. The second half got off to a rocky start with an interception thrown in the end zone, but a 56-yard bomb to Chris Olave to put up Ohio State 42-21 quickly erased that memory from the Ohio State faithful. One more long touchdown to Jameson Williams gave Fields his 5th touchdown of the night and capped off a dominating win and Ohio State's ticket to the national championship game. That victory over Clemson is the perfect representation of Fields' on-field personality. In the definition of a cult, it is said that a cult is a group of people who practice excessive devotion to a figure, object, or belief system, typically following a charismatic leader. Justin Fields isn't the most charismatic individual off the field. His interviews are often quite bland, and he doesn't show too much personality off the field. He's always portrayed confidence and sureness in himself, but he's never over the top or making too much noise off the field. But his play is loud. It speaks for itself, it's captivating, and it draws you in wanting more. He showed this exciting play style in college with deep throws all over the field. And especially in the 2022-2023 NFL season, Fields was one of the most exciting players in the league, with highlight reel plays making him a must-watch, especially in the second half of that season. His running ability was on full display that season, along with deep ball highlights that his supporters shouting from the rooftops. His best plays made the members in the cult think that that's who Justin Fields was all the time, and if he was in the right situation, that he would be able to do that consistently. His play style was loud, flashy, captivating, yet flawed. But were these flaws in Fields' game a result of nature or nurture? The Chicago Bears picked Justin Fields 11th overall in the 2021 NFL Draft to be their next savior at quarterback. Now, the use of the word savior in this context is important because for so many years, Bears fans have been looking for a quarterback to attach themselves to show pride in, because it's been well documented how the Chicago Bears haven't been a team with much success at quarterback. So, when you give a fan base starving for success at the position with a prospect as exciting and dynamic as Justin Fields, the formation of a cult-like following can be accelerated. Now, with cults, there can be an us versus the world mentality, making enemies out of those that don't choose to follow or choose to understand your way of thinking. Now, this is important because the cult of Justin Fields often thinks of their main enemy as the Chicago Bears themselves. A consistent narrative throughout Fields' time at quarterback of the Bears is that he didn't have enough pieces around him to succeed, and instability at coaching is what didn't allow him to reach his full potential as an NFL QB. Now, there is merit in that argument. I mean, the Bears had the 22nd ranked O-line in 2021, the 31st ranked O-line in 2022, and the 17th ranked O-line in 2023, according to PFF. PFF isn't the end-all be-all of how to evaluate players and teams, and there are definitely flaws in its rating system, but it can give you a rough sense of how a player or unit performs week to week or year to year. Now, instability at offensive line can hinder a quarterback's growth and development, especially with a prospect like Justin Fields, who's not coming out of college, was his slower processing speed and lack of anticipatory throws. Also, the Bears wide receiver unit in Fields' rookie and sophomore year was subpar to say the least, with Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet being the top two pass catchers in those seasons. Coaching was also an apparent issue for the Chicago Bears during Fields' tenure, with a head coach firing after his rookie year, and an inability to tailor the offense around Fields in his rookie year, and terrible play calling in his next 2 years, highlighted by 3 of JT O'Sullivan's top 12 highest viewed videos covering how confusing a lot of the design plays were and how they just didn't make sense. The Bears, especially in the 2023 season, did try to put the requisite weapons and support around Fields by trading for DJ Moore and drafting right tackle Darnell Wright with the 10th pick to add more protection for Fields. Now, this did show slight dividends as Fields had his highest passing season in 2023 with 2,562 yards, but even with the better support staff, you still couldn't help but notice some of Fields' inherent flaws showing up time and time again. He wouldn't throw the ball with receivers wide open and instead tuck and run or sometimes scramble straight into the defense for a sack. He has consistently had the longest time to throw amongst NFL QBs, which often leads to pressures and sacks being blamed on the offensive line. He has also gotten injured in each of his 3 seasons because he has to defer to running the ball and takes big hits throughout the season. The cult has said, and likely still says, that all these points aren't his fault, rather yet a fault of the situation that he has been put in and he's been victim to. However, whether his fault or not, Fields has not developed into the NFL quarterback that fans were hoping for coming out of college. He hasn't been able to shed some of the negatives that showed up during his time at Ohio State and develop himself into a proper NFL-level passer. He has consistently ranked towards the bottom in completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, sack percentage, and was one of the worst fourth-quarter quarterbacks throughout his entire Bears tenure. Sure, his situation wasn't the best, but how good does a situation need to be for a quarterback to perform at an average level, especially if the quarterback is viewed albeit irrationally, as one of the best in the league. Even with all of these being evidently clear and indicating that Fields may not be the quarterback they hope for, why does the cult still believe that Fields can become that guy? Justin Fields was seen as by far the most athletically gifted quarterback in his class, running a 4.4 40-yard dash at his pro day, the fourth fastest 40 for a quarterback at that time, and displaying a strong arm with great deep ball ability throughout his entire career. Justin Fields oozes athletic potential. The NFL and its fans have always been enamored with athleticism, as the league is filled with these athletic freaks that dominate at their respective positions. But history has proved time and time again that these type of prospects don't always pan out, and there are endless examples to prove this point. However, athleticism is so tantalizing. It can make fans turn off their logical brains and think that a prospect or player is capable of anything on the football field. Now, this somewhat makes sense because I believe that football players rely most on raw athleticism compared to athletes across other major sports. Of course, there is a high level of skill and mental aptitude required to play in the NFL, and that's why RAS scores don't always dictate the best players. But athletic potential does play a factor into how you'll pan out in the NFL. This potential gives fans hope, even when it doesn't pan out. This potential makes fans daydream. This potential is like a drug. Justin Fields can give you the most jaw-dropping plays that few other quarterbacks can give you because of his athleticism. Long runs, breaking free from multiple sacks, long throws on the money. But being a quarterback is so much more than that. You need to be able to control the offense and finish out a game when your team needs you to march down the field and score. I mentioned earlier about Fields' struggle in the fourth quarter, and here are some tweets from Warren Sharp that put that into perspective. Of course, this all can't be attributed to Justin Fields, as this is still a team game. But when you are the quarterback and the engine of the offense, the buck stops with you. Even after 3 years of mediocre results and up and down play that was mainly down, the cult of Justin Fields still believes that there is something in there still to be shown, something in there still to be unlocked. If only Justin Fields was in a different situation that he could actually show off his true ability and become the quarterback that is shown in those highlight compilation videos. On March 16th, 2024, Justin Fields was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 6th-round pick. The Justin Fields era in Chicago was officially over, ushering in Chicago's next chance at a savior at the quarterback position. This trade brought out all the pent-up feelings that the cult of Justin Fields had been holding in, and this trade did anything but kill the cult. If anything, it made the cult stronger, because Justin Fields was now a martyr. And maybe being in a new situation could do some good for Fields. He's now developing under the stable leadership of Mike Tomlin. So Fields served as the Steelers' starting quarterback for the first 6 weeks of the 2024 NFL season, leading Pittsburgh to a 4-2 record with a few pretty good games sprinkled in there. And there's no doubt that Fields looked better in Pittsburgh than his time in Chicago, with his best passer rating and touchdown to interception ratio to date. This all gave the cult new life, validation, and closure, knowing that it wasn't Fields that was the problem. It was the Bears. But in week 7, a healthy Justin Fields was benched for Russell Wilson. How, the cult asked? How could the Steelers do this to Fields? He led the Steelers to a 4-2 record while playing some of the best ball of his career. But stats and records don't always tell the whole story. The same issues that plagued Fields in Chicago were still showing up in Pittsburgh. He was still missing open receivers. He was still taking bad, untimely sacks. And even in his own words, I don't think I played good enough if I'm being real with you. If I'm being real with myself, if I did play well enough, I don't think there would be any sort of question who should be playing and who should not. But strangely, the same people who were happy that Fields was able to move on to greener pastures in Pittsburgh began to repeat the cycle. His receivers aren't good enough. His O-line isn't giving him enough time, and the coaches are letting him down. Does that sound familiar? Now, after signing a 2-year deal this offseason to lead the New York Jets, maybe we'll see the best of Justin Fields as he reunites with his old college teammate Garrett Wilson. But we're more than likely going to see the same up and down play that has plagued Fields throughout his entire career. The story of Justin Fields can be seen as tragic. an amazing talent that went to an unstable situation and never got the support that he needed to become the best version of himself. But you cannot write the book on Fields' career until it's over, and until the cult has lost its final supporters. But how long will that last? The lifespan of a cult can vary widely. Some last for a very short time period while others last decades. Some end dramatically while others dissipate without anyone realizing that they're gone. Regardless of how it ends, Fields' time in Chicago served as a time capsule of what happens when you give a desperate franchise a glimpse of hope. And we'll see if history continues to repeat itself with another cult forming around the next messiah in Chicago.